The other day, I started explaining from Dhātu vibhaṅga sutta. I will be quoting some excerpts from this sutta. In the beginning of the sutta, there explains how this teaching took place. And the commentary also explains the story behind it, how the sutta took place. It was quite late when Buddha arrived at the pot workshop owned by Bhagava, which was little distant from Rajagaha. There was the ascetic who arrived in the workshop earlier. Buddha entered the place and sat on a grass mat. And for most of the night, Buddha and the ascetic who had arrived earlier, they were sitting cross-legged. Buddha was absorbed in Palasamapati. The ascetic was also quietly sitting in his meditation. Most of the night had passed by. After having sat for quite a long time during the night, in Buddha's mind appeared the thought, this ascetic, his posture, the way he is sitting with his posture quietly, is pleasing and gracious. So it would be good if I asked him. Buddha asked him, in whose name did you renounce? Who is your teacher? Whose teaching do you cherish? It was surprising what the ascetic replied. So the ascetic replied to the Buddha, there is a Gautama, the Venerable Gautama, who renounced from the Sakya clan. And his virtues, the news of his virtues have spread it. And the ascetic also explained the virtue of the Buddha. And he replied that in the Buddha's name, I have renunciated. Buddha is my teacher, and it is Buddha's Dhamma that I cherish in. And Buddha asked, where is this Buddha? Where does the Buddha reside? And then he replied, Buddha resides in Savatthi. And Buddha asked him, have you seen Buddha? If you see Buddha, would you know him as Buddha? And the ascetic replied, no, I haven't seen Buddha. And if I see him, I will not recognize him. The ascetic has been sitting together in the same workshop with the Buddha. And he, even though he replied that he renunciated in the name of the Buddha, the teaching of the Buddha that he cherished, Buddha is his teacher, he doesn't recognize Buddha. And the commentator explained that usually Buddha, together with the glory of the Buddha, people know that it is Buddha by seeing the Buddha with his glory, with the aura and so on. But at times, Buddha hide his glory and just go on arms round, on casually as a casual bhikkhu. In that case, one might not recognize him as Buddha. And the commentator explained about this ascetic, how he happened to be in this pot workshop. The ascetic was a king of Takasila. His name was Pakusati. Pokusati. So this Pokusati was the king of Takasila. They were friends with the king of Rajagaha. Pokusati and the king of Rajagaha, they were of same age. Even though they were friends, they have not met each other. So how they become friends, even though they have not met each other, is that there are merchants who trade from one place to another. So through these merchants who trade, the two kings, Pokusati, the king of Takasila, and Bimbisara, the king of Rajagaha, they became friends. There was a time Pokusati was giving gifts through the merchants to Bimbisara. The gift that Pokusati sent was quite valuable. And the king Bimbisara, king of Rajagaha, thought what to give back to Pokusata as a present. And he thought that the Dhamma will be the best gift to give to his friend Pokusati. So it is not that in Rajagaha there are material things that are valuable to give back to Pokusati, but from the time that King Bimbisara became a Sotapanna, from that time on, after he became a Sotapanna, no other gems, no other precious things could please him apart from the triple gem. That's why he decided to give Pokusati the Dhamma gift. The king Bimbisara wrote on a golden paper, golden leaf, that Buddha had already arisen, Dhamma has already arisen, Sangha has already arisen. Together with the news that Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha have arisen, the king Bimbisara also wrote the virtues of the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, and also the way of practicing. And the king Bimbisara also sent the note that please open this gift in seclusion where nobody else is around. Pokusati, receiving the gift, also did accordingly open the gift opened the wrapping of the gift by himself alone in seclusion and saw the news, read the news that Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha had already arisen together with the virtues of the triple gem. So he was very satisfied. There was strong piti. And the practice that had been written in the golden letter, he read and then he practiced. And Pokusati, practicing according to what is written in the letter, attained the fourth jhana, Satutta jhana, the fourth jhana. After receiving the gift from Bimbisara, Pokusati opened the gift and then for 15 days, he had piti, he was practicing, he attained the fourth jhana finally. So during these 15 days, he did not see anyone and he did not do any of the duties of the king. He was in seclusion. And Pokusati decided that he himself in person want to go to see the Buddha and he want to get instructions from the Buddha to practice. And then he decided to renounce. So at that time, he asked somebody to go buy the clothes. He cut the hair by himself. He cut the hair by himself that his hair was only about this two finger length left. He wore the robes and left the palace. When he left the palace, there were others who saw him but didn't recognize him. They just thought that it was Pacheka Buddha, the solitary Buddha who were receiving alms in the palace. They just thought to him as a Pacheka, it might be a Pacheka Buddha who is in the palace for alms round. So he left his country without being recognized by the countrymen. He made the journey to go pay respect to the Buddha by himself, alone. And the commentators said that the journey he made was 192 yojana. That is 8 yojana short of 200 yojana, 192. And yojana, 1 yojana is equivalent to some say 8 miles or some say 12 miles. So it's either around 8 or 12 miles is equivalent to 1 yojana. And Pokusati traveled 192 yojana to this Rajagaha. And this journey was not easy journey, you can imagine. He did not have any slippers on. He did not have he did not bring an umbrella. He didn't have slippers on, and he made this journey on foot without using any kind of vehicle. And because Pokusati was a king, he lived a luxurious life. He was very delicate, making this journey on foot, on barefoot, with no umbrella. So there were many sores on his foot, traveling barefoot. And the food that he received, because he had a bowl with him, arms full with him. On the way, on the journey, the merchants who were going on trading, who were on journey, these merchants offered him some food into his bowl. And the kind of food he received was sometimes the rice was not well cooked. Sometimes there may be some sand or some small stone in the rice. Sometimes not enough, not salt. Sometimes salty. Whatever that he received in his bowl, he consumed it. He consumed it. He was content with it. In this way, he traveled, and then he even arrived in Savatthi. He even arrived near the gate of the Jetavana monastery. He did not ask where the Buddha was, so he just walked past the Jetavana monastery all the way to Rajagaha, which was 45 yojana away from Savatthi, where the Buddha was. So why he didn't know that it was Savatthi, where the Buddha was, is that in the letter, golden letter, King Bimbisara wrote as Ida. Ida. Ida means here. So Ida, he wrote the word Ida, where Buddha Dhamma Sangha had arisen. So seeing the word Ida means here in Pali. So he thought, because King Bimbisara was in Rajagaha, and when King Bimbisara wrote Ida, he thought it was Rajagaha. And he walked past Savatthi. But Buddha knew this. Early in the morning, Buddha went into Mahakaruna, and Buddha foresaw that Pukusati has the potential to attain Magaphala Jnana, and there was life-threatening danger for Pukusati. His life is getting short because there is a danger, life-threatening danger that will soon arise to Pukusati. That's why Buddha made this journey from Savatthi. Buddha took this 45 yojana journey to Rajagaha from Savatthi. So for the Buddha traveled 45 yojana. 45 yojana, that is equivalent 8 or 12 times in accordance with miles, yeah? And Pukusati had been traveling for 192 yojana. That's why after Buddha had arrived in this spot workshop, Buddha sat down on a grass mat before asking Pukusati the question. You will remember that they were sitting for most of the night. That is, to give time for Pukusati to be relieved from the exhaustion, from the journey that he had been traveling for 192 yojana. For most of the night, Buddha was sitting in his Palasamatati. Pukusati was sitting on fourth jhana. It is the commentators say Pukusati was on Anapana fourth jhana, sitting in that spot workshop for most of the night. So both Buddha and Pukusati was quietly sitting And now Buddha had asked the question. So here, Pukusati had already gotten the fourth jhana of Anapana jhana. And he did not recognize Buddha as the Buddha. After Buddha asked the question to Pukusati, and Pukusati replied that in the name of Buddha that he renunciated, it was Buddha, his teacher, and he cherished the teaching of the Buddha. And Buddha said to Pukusati, Bhikkhu, I will teach you the Dhamma. Please listen attentively to the Dhamma. The teachings that the Buddha gave to Pukusati start with Dhātu ro ayam bhikkhu puriso, meaning that there are 6 elements in the being. There are 6 elements in the being. Cha dhātu ro. Cha phasayatano, 6 fields of contact. Atharasa manopavijaro, 18 mental preoccupations. Chatura dethano, 4 foundations. And Yathatita manyasawa napavatanti manyasave kopana napavatamani muni sandoti kochati. The one who is firmly on the 4 foundation, the one who is established on 4 foundations, then the wrong notion, streams of wrong notion will not flow, and the person is said to be sage at peace. So what the Buddha said was, there are 6 elements, 6 fields of contact, 18 mental preoccupations, 4 foundations. And the person who firmly established the 4 foundations, stream of wrong notion will not flow, and such person is said to be sage at peace. Panyam napamacheya. Do not neglect wisdom. Do not be negligent of wisdom. Sacha manurakeya. Guard and protect the truth. Jaga manubruheya. One should practice for abandoning. One should practice to abandon. Santi mewaso tekeya. One should practice in order to gain peace. So what are the 6 elements here explained in the Dhātu Vibhaṅga Sutta? Dhātu ro, the 6 elements, consist of Pathavi Dhātu, earth element, Apo Dhātu, water element, Tejo Dhātu, temperature element, Vayo Dhātu, air element, Akasa Dhātu, space element, and Vijnana Dhātu, mind element. So among these elements, let us relate them to our practice, how we can discern these elements. Yeah. So here in the practice, yogis are noting rising, falling, sitting, touching in the walking, in the sitting meditation, and in the walking meditation, noting lifting, moving, and placing. Another way is that during the Satipatthana meditation practice, Kayanupassana, meaning we have to be mindful of whatever the bodily activity that are obvious at the present moment. When noting the object such as rising, falling, or sitting, touching, we are noting on the rupa, materiality. And among the materiality, the 4 elements, Paṭhavi Dhātu, yeah, earth element, Apo Dhātu, water element, Tejo Dhātu, temperature element, Vayo Dhātu, air element, they are the ones who are most obvious among the materiality. When noting rising, falling, or sitting, touching, we focus our mind. When noting rising, falling, we focus our mind on the abdomen, rising, falling, rising, falling. If we pay full attention, noting rising, falling, one can discern the nature that is in the rising and falling. For example, when noting rising, when one attention goes onto the rising, when the mind is fully on the rising, when the mind falls calm, collected on the rising, one might notice stiffness or tension, hardness or fluidity. So this stiffness, tension, hardness, fluidity, warmth, heat, these are the nature of the elements that are most obvious at the moment of rising. If one is noting, sitting, touching, noting, sitting, focusing the mind on the whole body sitting, noted as sitting. And when the mind is fully with the object sitting, when the mind is calm, collected on the object sitting, one might notice hardness or stiffness or heat or warmth while noting sitting. In this way, one discerns the nature of elements that are presently obvious at the moment of sitting. When noting, lifting, moving, and pacing, when you pay attention, when the mind is fully with the object, when the mind is calm and collected, one can also come to notice lightness, heaviness, pushing, warmth, heat, hardness that are present in the moment of lifting, moving, placing. So these are just an example in general that I give. These are just the example of how one can notice the nature by noting the present arising object. Of course, there are other natures that one can notice. So if you have not noticed these nature yet, do not be discouraged. What you have to do is just pay attention. Focus your mind on the object that you're noting and put the mental effort so that the noting mind will reach the object. So in this way, aim your mind, direct the mind onto the object, put effort so that the noting mind reaches the object. In this way, one applies these mental factors moment by moment, second by second. So I will explain using one example that our Sayadaw gives. When eating food, when you pick up the piece of food with a fork, you cannot just put the fork anywhere, but you have to put the fork in particular piece of food that you want to pick up. So in order to do that, you need to aim and direct the fork onto the piece of food. Aiming, directing the fork alone, the fork will not reach the food. You have to apply effort so that the fork will reach the food. In this way, in order to pick up the piece of food, aim the fork towards the food, put effort so that the fork will reach the food. If you don't aim the fork will land somewhere else where it's not the food that you want to pick up. Or just if you don't put effort to just aiming alone, the fork will not reach the food. So in this way, in picking up the food, you need to aim and direct the fork. You need to put effort so that the fork will reach the food that you want to pick up. In the same way, when you meditate, when you are noting the object, aim, direct the mind onto the object, put effort so that the noting mind will reach the object. And thus, if you are able to do it, you can come to discern the nature that is in the object that you're noting. So the time is I'm a little bit taking some overtime. So I'm sorry, because while we have a good connection, I might as well take some time. So this will be for today. In the next following Dhamma talk, I will explain more about the Dhātu, the elements, the nature, the characteristics, and so on. But for today, this will be all for today.
Yeah.